Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock, and you really fucking shifted the energy on me. Like, that was the most
I was
dead,
saving it up.
That was the most dead countdown to, like, 1, 2, 3. Hey, I'm Steve Gibson, you know, like.
And we're here at KBB in the morning.
It's like, you know, I told you, like, I worked a lot. I'm tired. I can't match that. You gotta bring it down to my level.
No, I'm going to shift it randomly throughout the episode just to, like, throw you off completely.
Yo, this is Steve Gibson, and we're about to go balls out with some internet stories. Ben, what you got for us? And it was like, I found a creepypasta.
Well, that's really interesting, Ben.
Fuck, man. That's baller. But yeah, it is that time again where I'm too tired to put together a real topic.
I was actually pretty shocked. I was kind of waiting like all day because I know how much you've been working. I was like, I'm waiting for that tweet, like that message is just like, hey, dude, can we like skip this week? But so you get credit just for showing up.
Oh, cool. So we can wrap it up then, right?
Yeah,
because I don't want to read all this. It's a lot
well,
of words.
I mean, you have a creepypasta, but just I don't know what it is, so you could be like, well,
it's actually
all right. So Jim was scared. The end.
So it's not a proper creepypasta. This is from the No Sleep Reddit, which is it's in that same vein.
Well, and that's extremely appropriate given what you were just talking about work and.
But, like, No Sleep, it's kind of weird. Like, I was a little surprised since doing the show just how, like negative and critical the creepypasta community can be. Because, you know, I joke and we laugh about, you know, bad writing or just silly writing or whatever in these horror stories. But then you go into, like, those comments and everybody's, like, not fucking scary at all. 3 out of 10.
Go kill yourself.
Because, it's fucking, you know, it's basically Metacritic.
Right. Yeah.
No Sleep it's interesting. I haven't really done
It's more chill.
It's chill, but it's also, like, really, like, one of the rules is, like, if you comment in there, it's not it's not a writer forum so much. Like, you can compliment the work or whatever, but it's more about when you're talking about it, you're almost talking about it like these things actually happened, which was actually the origin of creepypasta.
So it's like a role-playing creepypasta.
A little bit, but not so much playing like a role, because it's just these stories, and then people may latch onto it and build off it with their own stories or something, or like try to define something that you wrote about. And it's kind of interesting in that respect. And like I said, that's like Slender Man was that was how Slender Man came to be. Like, now it's just a dumb internet thing. But it started as like a forum post, as like a sincere.
Today, the very real theory on Slenderman, that is, it's actually just Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. And the fucking long arms are just the tendrils of Facebook infecting fucking everything. But not, like, you know, Slenderman just started as a something awful forum post. And it was like, you know, it wasn't real, but it was told in a way of like, wow, that's believable. And everybody kept adding to the story until it became this big fucking thing.
And then some teenage girl went and murdered a friend.
Yeah, and like any good story, it comes.
You took it too far. Yeah, or not far enough. One of the two. I haven't decided, but
so anytime you're looking up like top stories from the No Sleep Reddit, this user named Pippinacious keeps coming up. I guess they just write no sleep stories all the time.
Churn them and burn them.
Churn them and burn them. And we're going in blind on this one. There was one I wanted to read to see if it would actually scare me, because it's about spiders, and that's as much as I know about it. But it's pretty long, and I don't. We'll do that another time when I have a little more energy. So this story is called Mimicry. I was worried when I first inherited Claudette that she would be lonely and depressed. I knew parrots were supposed to be social creatures, but I was barely equipped to handle one, much less get her a companion. Aunt June, who had generously given the bird to me after discovering how loud and energetic she could be, assured me that Claudette was an independent sort and would be fine on her own.
You know my thoughts on birds. I could sidetrack this conversation.
Actually, the listeners know your thoughts on birds. There was a good chunk of episodes where you were very clear about how you felt about birds. You have a kindred spirit here. Claudette and I had a rocky start. I was timid around her large beak and sharp claws, and she was slow to trust yet another new person. And I like that he immediately went to, like, she's a threat. And I'm afraid.
Well, like he said, the beak and the claws. Yeah. I mean...
Oh, yeah, and parrots are pretty fucking big, so, like, their scratches, they're not fucking around.
No, and I think they're one of those birds, too, where they're built to, like, eat tropical nuts, so those beaks can just, like... you think sharp, and they are, but they have, like, crushing power, too, so it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you would have to have a bicep as chiseled as mine that beak would just bounce right off of. Be like, nice try, Claudette. I hate reading that name, by the way.
Claudette?
It just sounds like it's 5 more syllables than it is right now. I'm trying to read it.
I like that it sounds like it was just like they had their heart set on a Claude for a boy, and then it came out a girl, and they're like, add at to the end. I mean, I know Claudette's
I would have a female bird named Claude. That would be all right. She had apparently had a number of homes in her 25 years, all of whom had given her up much the same as Aunt June had. That was mostly why I kept her. I felt sorry for her and wanted her finally to have a home, and even if that meant a steep learning curve. Yeah, Aunt June. Keeps her in a little cage feeding her peanuts. We had what felt like a very long period of adjustment, during which I learned that getting bitten, while painful, could have been much worse, and she started to at least recognize me as the hand that fed her. When I discovered she was happiest in my small screened-in porch, I moved her cage there and gave her free run of it, which also improved our relationship. The way he's writing about it.
Yeah, but I'm confused. You moved her cage and then gave her free run? Like, is she...
Well, I mean, you gotta give them, like, a central hub. Like, you gotta put the food in the water dish somewhere, but I think he's saying he just moved the cage in there and then opened the door.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time, patience, and treats, but eventually it got to the point where she would fly over to me whenever I went out and sit on my arm while she inhaled whatever I brought her. Which, paint fumes, fucking... Just a parrot huffing paint. That'd be all right.
I'm just, picturing them doing whippets together.
If I had been worried about her getting lonely while I was away, those concerns were quickly banished when I realized she was making fast friends with mockingbirds who nested in a tree behind my apartment. They trade calls and squawk at each other throughout the day, which sometimes got me in a little trouble with my more noise-sensitive neighbors. But that wasn't anything a few homemade cookies and apology cards couldn't smooth over. This guy's a lot better of a neighbor than I would be. I
was going to say, he cares way more about his neighbors' opinions of him.
Because on garbage day, I would intentionally forget, and I would dump all my trash on their lawn. If you complained about my bird. I had never considered getting a parrot before, but Claudette proved to be a sweet, smart girl once you got past her initial orneriness. That's like props for bringing out that fucking horrible word. And I learned that she had a fairly extensive and sometimes colorful vocabulary and was an excellent little mimic. I also found out that over the course of a few months while I was at work, she had apparently been teaching the mockingbirds a thing or two. I was sitting on the porch one evening, giving Claudette a little neck scratch before going in to make dinner, when I heard a soft but very distinct voice coming from somewhere overhead. "Shit," it said. I jumped, having not seen or heard anyone approach, and looked around, but my little corner of the apartment complex was quiet and no one was outside. In my lap, Claudette started to bob her head, her feathers ruffling ever so slightly. "Shit," the voice said again. "Shit," Claudette answered. So these are my birds.
I'm picturing a bird flying around actually shitting, but yelling shit as it does.
On the roof, I heard... She and the voice went back and forth a few more times, enthusiastically shouting at one of her favorite words, until I rushed her inside in embarrassment and to keep whoever was taunting her from going any further. It wasn't until I saw one of her mockingbird friends swoop by the porch a few times, obviously in search of Claudette, that I realized the voice I had been hearing hadn't been someone encouraging her naughty behavior. It had been the mockingbirds mimicking her.
God, now I love this idea that eventually you get a parrot and suddenly the whole neighborhood's full of birds going, shit, shit.
That would be pretty scary. That was what Alfred Hitchcock was really going for. Just a bunch of birds like, shit, 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 shit. Claudette had taught the wild birds to swear.
Does that make them bluebirds? But
that's a better name than Mimicry. It was going to take a lot more cookies to get back on my neighbor's good sides when they figured this one out. Instead of moving her inside, I decided to try and encourage her to use sweeter phrases that I had hoped the mockingbirds would pick up on. Hello, I said over and over again. Hello, Claudette said. Shit, the mockingbird said. Shit indeed. I hadn't even known mockingbirds could talk, much less how to get them to pick up new words, so I scoured the internet and asked around, hoping for some insight. They just repeat what they hear often. One bird enthusiast replied when I left a comment on a forum. They'll pick up something else soon. A mockingbird near me constantly called my dogs for ages until it picked up a new bird song. Good luck. Okay, I told myself I could wait them out. In the meantime, I kept working with Claudette to clean up her own language and spent a bit of time every night repeating words to her and rewarding her when she got them right. It took a few more weeks and months, but the swearing was definitely on a decline, and I hadn't heard the mockingbirds repeating her anymore, so I was counting it a victory. One morning, when I went out to feed her before I left for work, she bobbed and paced along her run with her usual enthusiasm, but I noticed she was making these odd, raspy noises, like she couldn't quite catch her breath. I took her up on my arm and gave her a quick once-over while stroking her back. You okay? I asked.
Shit.
Shit. Hello, she said, and the odd breathing stopped. I waited for a little while, almost enough time to make me late, but she seemed fine, and I rushed out to get to work. The next morning, however, the low, rasping noises were back. She again came over to me and fluffed and bobbed, all the while making the ragged breathing sounds. Outside, the mockingbirds were responding with unusual clicking noises. I didn't pay much attention to them, too concerned for my poor parrot. Unable to leave her again when she was in such an obvious state of distress, I called my boss to let her know I had a family emergency and hurried Claudette to the nearby vet. I told them in a quavering voice that I was sure she had some kind of serious illness and explained that she was having trouble breathing, and they ushered me into a room to wait for the doctor. When he came in, I again told him about the sounds and begged him to listen to Claudette. She was sitting in her travel cage, preening quietly, completely undisturbed by the fact that her life was hanging in the balance. According to the writer.
Yeah.
Why aren't you freaking out like I am, Claude? I swear she sounded horrible yesterday and today, I insisted. Sometimes these things come and go, Dr. Graham said gently. Can you do me a favor? Imitate the sound she was making. I quickly did as he asked, hoping I'd be accurate enough for him to understand the severity of the situation, and immediately Claudette started to mimic me. Dr. Graham hid a small smile behind his hand before catching himself and becoming serious again. She's fine, Stacy. It seems she may have overheard you during some nighttime activities and is just repeating those sounds. What? I think she's heard you with a partner, during intimate moments. So this doctor's kind of a creep.
Huh?
Yeah, what fucking planet is this doctor on where, like, every time people are having sex, it sounds like they can't breathe? I know I become Darth Vader. Claudette emphasized his statement with an unmistakable little moan. With my face burning a bright red, I packed up my bird, mumbled an apology and thanked him, and practically ran out of the office. So this means all these mockingbirds are going to just mock the sound of this woman having sex.
Yeah, I'm picturing Forrest Gump now, that scene after the mom sleeps with the principal. Yeah. Your mama sure do care about your education, boy. Or whatever it's a.
Your mama sure cares about your education, Claudette. You've been listening to the neighbors, I accused a now whistling Claudette on the way home, or has someone been playing their TV too loud? How did you learn to make those noises? It's... I like the interrogation. Answer me!
I know you can speak.
It certainly hadn't been from me, that much I knew. Oh, that's a bummer.
Props to the character for not trying to explain that to the, like, just to do one of those, like, oh, it wasn't me, I didn't, just to be like, whatever.
Listen, readers, I have tons of sex, but not like that, you know? It certainly hadn't been from me, that much I knew. Whatever it was, it must have been going on for a while if she was starting to mimic it. I couldn't just go around asking my neighbors if they were getting down and dirty with the windows open, so for now, I'd just have to try and keep a closer eye on what she was getting exposed to. When I released her back onto the porch, she squawked a chorus of hellos to the mockingbirds, who sang back and then settled on top of her cage for a nap in the sun. I sat on the porch with her for a good portion of the day, but didn't hear anything particularly telling, and eventually gave up when it became uncomfortably warm outside. I still poked my head out on occasion, but the most unusual thing I heard was the mockingbirds making their newly picked up clicking sound. While it was familiar, I couldn't quite place where I'd heard it before and dismissed it. Claudette's heavy breathing sounds started to become a more frequent part of our morning, along with the occasional moan, and every so often she'd mumble to herself, "Pretty, pretty, pretty." At least that was an improvement on shit, which I don't agree with. I'd rather my bird said shit than mumbled pretty, pretty, pretty.
Well, yeah, especially while moaning and...
Like, if it's shit, then it's like, yeah, you're definitely my parrot. Pretty, 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 it's like, this parrot's gonna kill me. She and the mockingbirds continued their back and forth, and I got used to their clicking noises the same way I had their swearing. It was especially bad in the morning when Claudette was doing what I came to call her breathing exercises. Ragged breathing, click, 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 moan, click, click, rinse and repeat until midday. I just had to wait them out, and they'd eventually move on to some new sound to try and drive me crazy with. But the more I heard it, the more I realized there was something about the click, which was becoming more refined and distinct every day. It kept nagging at me. I knew the sound, and given a bit more time, I was sure I'd pinpoint exactly what they were imitating, but it continued to elude me. "How's Claudette doing?" my sister asked while we drank wine and had our weekly Thursday night phone call. I was sitting in my living room in my pajamas, little more than a tank top and a pair of shorts that were too small to wear out in public, with my phone in one hand and my glass in the other. I'd left my sliding glass door leading out to the porch open just wide enough for Claudette to waddle inside if she wanted to join me. "She's fine, still doing that nasty breathing thing." "You figure out who's taught it to her?" "I'm leaning towards the Johnsons. They've always struck me as exhibitionist types." Raina giggled. "Aren't they the old people?" "Yeah, and they need some loving too." While we laughed, I heard a series of very soft clicks through the open door. Oh, I said, "the mockingbirds are doing the thing I told you about. Maybe you can hear them and tell me what this damn noise is." I sprang up from my couch and crossed the living room to yank back the sheer curtain hanging across the slider. The clicking stopped immediately. Beside me, Claudette paced back and forth across her cage top, mumbling all the while. "Pretty, pretty, pretty." A bush on the other side of the screen shook just slightly. The light from inside my apartment reflected off the porch screen, making it difficult to see outside, and I froze. "I can't hear them," Raina said in my ear. "Stacy?" The bushes rustled again. Claudette started to make the shuddering, raspy breathing sounds. From the trees overhead, the mockingbirds responded with their clicks. I now recognized the sound with sudden, chilling clarity. "Raina?" I said as calmly as I could. "I think someone's in my bushes." As soon as the words left my mouth, a dark figure sprang upright and was making a mad dash around the side of the apartment building. It happened so quickly that I couldn't make out much. No features, nothing significant, just dark clothes and maybe a hat, and then he was gone.
Damn it, Mr. Johnson.
Claudette, are you taunting the poor boy in the bushes? Raina was asking me in a near panic if she should call the police while I was too stunned to answer. It had taken me months to teach Claudette words, months for her to pick up new sounds, months for her to learn to mimic accurately. No doubt it would have taken the same amount of time listening to someone breathing heavily and moaning to repeat the sounds accurately. My stomach dropped fast and far, and I thought I might vomit. She hadn't learned those sounds from noisy neighbors or a television show. She had learned it from the man who had been outside my apartment, panting like a dog while he watched me. I stumbled back against the slider and scrambled to get inside again. Over my shoulder, one of the mockingbirds called out into the night from a treetop. Click, click. The perfect imitation of a camera shutter.
Who uses cameras anymore, though? I mean, just be a cell phone. And you turn that shit off when you're trying to spy on somebody.
Not that I would know anything about being a...
Yeah, I mean, I presume... No, that's... I assume that's the end?
That's the end, yeah.
Yeah. I liked it because I kind of
actually
suspected
really good,
that, like, from the clicking, but I liked the way that they kept it vague. I didn't suspect necessarily, like, the spying on, but it's like... They did. They had me guessing where it was going with it. I thought maybe like one of the neighbors had somebody like tied up and like...
Yeah, and that was kind of the good thing about going into it blind was like, I didn't know if they would do like a supernatural thing or this was one of those like, fucking stranger danger type stories. And I like that they didn't define the click until the end. Like, it would have been very easy to reveal that and then have a whole like third act.
I just wish, like, at some point the parrot would have started picking up, like, awooga.
A boing, 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 boing.
Humana, humana, humana.
It sounded just like steam from a kettle coming out of a man's ears.
I liked that. That was pretty good.
Yeah. And it gives me more options for these types of stories and stuff. A little bit shorter than I thought it was, but that's fine.
Part 2, you find out he wasn't spying on Stacy; he was spying on the bird. He really likes parrots.
That's the thing. Like, if it was like this screened off, patio, you're not getting that good of a view. You can't be. It had to be the parrot.
Yeah.
Come to creep out the girl in her pajamas. Stay for Claudette.
He was a retired pirate, and he just missed having a parrot.
That's like that moment where it's like, shit, I'm busted. Like, you don't try to do any stealthy getaway at all.
The gig is up. Yakety sax starts playing as he runs away. Maybe one of the Scooby-Doo songs when they're...
And like, I'm sure it's true. Like, I'm sure that's a true behavior in, like, creepy fucking dudes. But just, like, the idea that there's, like, your go-to is just this fucking bush out of an apartment. It's like, go to a library. You'll get, like... You won't get arrested, and, well, you probably won't get arrested, depending on what website you go to. But you can get all that shit for free.
Yeah, but that's not the same.
Bring a shrub with you into the library and say, I need to do some stuff. Keep the kids in the kids section. Announce that as loud as you can. So, yeah. I did like that story a lot, though.
And I give it props, too, because there's a lot... When you know you're going into, like, a creepy... horror-y, whatever story, and then you hear parrot, like, my first thought is, okay, the parrot's going to start saying stuff. It's a
You're
going to
die on October 5th, like.
Or I thought maybe like it would start saying stuff like you realize one of the prior owners was a murderer or something like that, know. Or a supernatural thing, it got passed around because the bird itself is haunted or a menace or this or that.
Yeah. Well, they kind of swerve it because they set up like nobody wants this bird,
Yeah, exactly. And then it turns into this like buddy story until the perv shows up and
yeah. And I think that's, like some scary stories, it's about like building up that tension. And this doesn't, if there's any knock, it doesn't build up that tension very well.
Yeah, because it builds up curiosity, I'd say.
Yeah.
At least it did to me.
Yeah.
But not really an intense, like, something bad's going to happen way. Just
yeah. So it's like more of a curious story with a creepy payoff, Yeah. And that's
except
fine.
for, like you said, the mental image of the guy just being like, gig is up.
Cheese it.
Cheese it. Oh, shit, I forgot my camera.
I assume that's what pervs do. They shout cheese it like Bender. But yeah, overall I like that. And we'll do more stuff from No Sleep for sure. But that's the show this week. Next week is our 100th episode, and if life keeps going the way it's going, we're probably not going to do anything special.
Yeah, but maybe I'll like eat a cupcake before the show. Yeah. Be like, woo.
Yeah, send us cupcakes to celebrate. Yeah. Get your COVID all over our cupcakes. And but yeah, we'll be back next week with more crap.
Yes.